There's something waiting for you in your sleep. Your hopes and dreams are all lies, so you should just stay awake. But how long can you stay awake for? Days? Weeks? Months? Even years? Your mind breaks down without sleep. At what point are you no longer human? Nocturnal Chronicles is a series about people dying horribly in their sleep. The doctors have no idea what's causing it, but the few survivors say they have visions of demons. In response, people start staying awake to avoid the nightmares, but that has its own issues. Recently, I've watched many different analog horror series, preferring lesser-known tales over the big ones. Ultimately, I'm trying to find analog horror series that deserve more attention. Well, I found one. The Nocturnal Chronicles is one of the best I've seen, hands down, not just because of the surface level setting, but because each episode introduced bizarre twists that, when you look closely, have been teased all along. It's not just strange and creepy visuals for their own sake, it's telling an intricate and well planned out story. Nocturnal Chronicles is a very dense and opaque series. It takes a careful eye to try and piece the story together. And honestly, even though I've tried very hard, I'm not entirely convinced I'm correct with what I'm presenting today. So, after we analyse each episode, I'm going to show you a timeline drawn from the dates in the videos and the descriptions, and then my theory of what is happening, and what may happen next. The series is intricately woven together, but I believe we can untangle it. Before we begin, I'd just like to note that the first part of the series has been collected into a compilation video by the creator, with some additional scenes. But some scenes are also missing. So I've tried to combine the small amount of extra footage with the existing videos, but the changes are minor, and mostly just serve to provide a small amount of context to scenes. So please, come with me on this journey as we examine the Nocturnal Chronicles.
This is an automated public service announcement brought to you by Channel 7 News WDTVA.
We report to you looking live outside of this local Brookside residence, the site of the latest instance of the strange and horrific phenomenon known as immediate and explained nocturnal death syndrome, which is characterized by acute fatal trauma to the brain stem and spinal cord with no signs of external trauma, followed by rapid blood loss, and in some cases, total mummification. A blight that has claimed the lives of 41 people in the last month across the past 30 days in the Midwest and southeastern United States. We are now witnessing the first cases in our community as it continually spreads northwest. Little is known of IUNDS and its current variant's roots in the United States, though there have been previous cases in countries such as Laos, the Philippines, Portugal, France, as well as previously in the US. However, this new variant differs in that it seems indiscriminate in who it may affect. In congruence with this variant's roots, its causes are also unknown at this time, as victims have not shown consistent pre-existing conditions. Though, some experts have speculated low potassium, history of head trauma, and recent exposure to ionizing radiation.
Immediate unexplained nocturnal death syndrome, or IUNDS for short. When you sleep, you can just die. Your brainstem and spine are crushed, and you lose huge amounts of blood to the point of mummification. It seems to spread like a disease, but there's no known way of tracking it. Incidents are very low with less than 100 victims, but it's still terrifying. This isn't the first time it's appeared, or even the first time it's appeared in the US. Now, this sounds like your standard mysterious analog horror disease, but trust me, it's not what you think.
However, as a public service announcement, and in accordance from testimonials of 12 survivors who presented with injuries consistent with IUNDS victims, we are obligated to inform you of the signs that you may be affected. If you are currently experiencing memory loss, delusions of grandeur or hallucinations, present to your local hospital or healthcare provider. Do not go to sleep. If you are currently experiencing loss of vision, unexplained pain in the hands or ears, or numbness in the face, present to your local hospital or healthcare provider. Do not go to sleep. If you are feeling uneasy, do not take chances. Please remember that light is your friend. Do not go to sleep. There have also been consistent visions reported by survivors before the incident's report. A shadowy visage at the end of the bed, most commonly what can be described as a large flea or other incubus in some form. If you see anything that may fit this description, do not move, do not act erratically. Please stay alert. Updates will come as we receive them. I hope for the best for all of you. Good luck.
There are some warning signs for IUNDS. Mysterious pains, numbness, delusions of grandeur, memory loss, hallucinations. Even worse, the visions of fleas and incubi make it sound like it might not entirely be a physical phenomena. The official recommendation to the vague symptoms of impending nightmarish death is just to not sleep.
Welcome to the IUNDS Public Messaging Training Course, Part 1. As you all may know, in light of recent events regarding the IUNDS phenomenon, we have observed a sizable uptick in abstinence from sleep from the general population. This quick message is to serve as an example of proper medical communications to your jurisdictions. Remember, calm messaging from authorities is key in trying times such as these. Voluntary insomnia is not recommended and was previously thought to be preposterous. You will fall asleep in time. Though with high volumes of the population attempting this endeavor, we have seen small portions of the population be able to achieve this voluntary insomnia. This is clearly very out of the ordinary, but what has been observed from this small swathe of people, who on average have not slept in 18 days, are instability of emotions and mood, characterized by mood swings, cognitive rigidity, and irrational or poor decision-making, reduced immune function, and increased inflammation.
Alongside people dying in their sleep, we also have the spread of voluntary insomnia. People are trying to stay awake indefinitely to avoid being killed, and while that's supposed to be impossible, some are succeeding. In fact, it's so bad there's official warning videos being sent out to public health officials to help people to keep sleeping. They have all the regular symptoms of sleep deprivation, but that's not all.
Now, these effects still ring true in our voluntary insomniac strata, though with some very important caveats. Take, for example, Samantha Yeoman. Samantha is being held currently at the Brookside Health Institute. She has been awake now for 20 days and counting. Samantha was an otherwise healthy 24-year-old woman before her voluntary insomnia. Adverse circumstances commenced for Samantha at about 72 hours of awake time. Though initially seeming to be consequences of severe sleep deprivation, Samantha would start to act out. Her temper started to flare. She would lash out at anybody advising her to sleep. According to a close friend, she stated on about day 4, "I know that they're coming for me, and I wish I knew what I did to deserve this." If you can recall, this seems somewhat similar to symptoms found in some victims of IUNDS, who also reported delusions of grandeur, believing that they are being chosen for something that they do not want, though not being able to properly define what that may be. This, however, is not where this stops. By day 7, she began scratching her walls to shreds. By day 11, her physical state had declined. She would be catatonic, only stirring with unprovoked outbursts. By day 15, Samantha had been rendered unrecognizable. In a panic, her family had resorted to restraining her. She began to speak on day 16, once she had been transported to the Brookside Health Institute, and though much was unintelligible, she spoke mainly of her visions, something ready to take her life force, as well as fleas swarming her in a field.
Here we meet Samantha Yeoman, a very important character for the rest of the series. It's through her that we see the major symptoms of voluntary insomnia: mood swings, violent outbursts, paranoia, and delusions of grandeur. She also has visions of fleas swarming her. It's the same symptoms as IUNDS. So you can't sleep, and now you can't stay awake. What exactly is going on here?
We inform you all of this because it is imperative to understand the severity of what this newfound voluntary insomnia might bring. We are currently studying Samantha, along with other voluntary insomnia patients. And if we find any certain risk factors, we will release a further statement. Remember, calm messaging is key, and
Have you noticed any of the following patterns in your dreams? Reuniting with an old friend. Experiencing a hypothetical romance. Achieving your wildest dreams. Please take caution. There may be something or someone waiting to attack you. Your worst fears will come true. Please take caution. Look at yourself, you are all you need. You are right where you should be. Abandoning these hopes will allow you to live forever. Live forever and be happy.
Someone is sending a message, trying to convince the viewer that dreams and sleep should not be trusted. There are monsters lurking there, waiting to attack them. You don't need to change anything. You have everything you need right now. You shouldn't hope for anything. It's understandable why someone wouldn't want to sleep if there was a chance to instantly have your blood drained, but why would somebody be trying to manipulate others into not sleeping? We don't have the answers for this just yet. In fact, this series has a lot of puzzle pieces that cannot be connected for a little while, so please bear with me while we lay out everything first.
I thought I knew what I saw, but maybe I was mistaken. Like I was really supposed to believe it wasn't just a dream. Then I really woke up.
We continue to monitor what has now become a national epidemic.
The nocturnal death epidemic has continued. There's now 98 victims, with very few survivors.
Dane's Log Part 1. It's Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, I guess. I'm one of the few survivors, but I'm told I'm not out of the woods yet. I don't really understand what happened to me. When I woke up, I was different. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, too. If I were to describe it, I feel like I'm still sleeping.
Calamity! Patient is Dane Lansky, 33 years old, male, immediate unexplained nocturnal death survivor number 9, victim number 41. Patient has complained of a, quote, squeezing feeling starting in the forehead, following down the posterior chain to the heels of his feet. Plasma levels have stabilized. He will continue to be
Victim's name is Dane Lansky, a 33-year-old man expecting a child with his fiancée, Vanessa. A bright future that may have been taken away.
This is the first IUNDS survivor we've actually seen, and Dane gives us a wealth of information. He feels like he's still sleeping. He has a squeezing feeling starting at the top of his head all the way down to his feet. And we know there's visions of incubi and fleas, and moving is difficult. It's almost as if he's suffering from an extended form of sleep paralysis. In fact, a common hallucination with sleep paralysis is an incubus or succubus in the room, or even sitting on top of you, which explains the feeling of pressure. The loud, sudden flashing during this episode and others are reminiscent of what's called exploding head syndrome, an audio and sometimes visual hallucination when one is falling asleep or waking up. It's called exploding head syndrome because it can sound like any number of sudden and shocking sounds, such as an explosion, door slamming, or perhaps car brakes screeching. Rarely, it's even accompanied by bright flashes, which fit what's happening in the episode. We should also note this house. We've seen it before, in the very first episode, where it was described as a Brookside residence and the latest case of IUNDS. Last episode, Samantha was taken to the Brookside Health Institute, suggesting that there's a link between the two.
Dane's Log, Part 12. It's been getting more and more difficult to speak. Description doesn't elude me. I'm just having trouble mustering the strength in my lungs and vocal cords. I'm not sure what they want me to say. I've told them everything I know. I said the same thing to my fiancé a few days ago, among other things. The point is, I think I'm dying. Have you been watching the news?
Yeah, I've been trying not to, honestly, but it's hard to look away.
Yeah. I'm not doing well.
I wish they would let me see you.
That wouldn't be a good idea.
But I want to.
It wouldn't be a good idea. Some of the doctors and nurses that have handled me haven't slept in days.
What?
I think I'm a monster or something.
No, you're not.
You said this was all a hoax.
Dane, please.
Dane! Patient Dane Lansky. Physical state has declined. Currently non-responsive. We are seeing similar symptoms to that of deaths in IUNDS cases. Body weight has declined by nearly 50%. We have been witnessing the possibility of a contagion with this case. 3 nurses and some other medical staff have been unable to sleep for around 40
First responders rush to the Brookside Hospital. A report of a disaster.
I am in your dreams. I am in your dreams. I am in your dreams.
I don't know what Dane did, but I can tell you that he wasn't Dane anymore. I've been sleeping a lot more recently. Kind of ironic. I hope that they got everything that they could out of Dane. But to be honest, I don't really care why this is happening. I just wish it never happened at all.
Dane's symptoms got worse and worse. So bad he was unresponsive, then something happened at the Brookside Hospital, and he's no longer around. He originally survived RUNDS, and the nurses and medical staff treating him caught insomnia. That means the survivors of those attacks are the source of the voluntary insomnia contagion, which explains why symptoms are so similar in each case. It's not that people are trying to stay awake to avoid dying. It's that they can't go to sleep, even if they wanted to.
Come on then, friend. Have a seat. I thought you would never return. You may ask, is this a dream? I would ask, would that make a difference? Your dreams are the reality you choose. Even if the reality might frighten you. Where are you? You may ask. I would ask, where do you think you are? Where do you think you deserve you to be? A location would not be helpful, and that's not what you really want to know. Who am I? Who are you? Come home. You are now ready. Come home to where you belong.
Like the third video, Abandon All Hope, this one won't make much sense until later. In fact, it seems to not make any sense whatsoever. The description helps a little. It says it's an epilogue to the previous video, after the Brookside Hospital incident, which apparently killed Dane. It even shows his house and his face, so I think this is what Dane is seeing after the incident. There is one specific line to keep in mind, however. Your dreams are the reality you choose. This episode is explicitly called a prelude in the description, and it's set in 1987, so while you watch, remember that this is set before all the videos you've seen up to this point. We see what appears to be a recruiting ad for some kind of self-improvement group. They promise to help you reach the bliss you've always dreamed about. The Sedalis Collective aim to help you reach your goals through 3 core tenets. Instill confidence in yourself, to simplify your life through the simplification of your goals, and finally, give back to the Watchers through sacrifice.
Founded by in 1984, after a visit from one of the world's watchers in the middle of the night. Saw this as a sign that something had to change, and that others must feel the same way. Thus, the 3 core tenets were established, which are achieved by the process known as stabilization. Stabilization is truly a lifelong process of refinement, but can be distilled down to the following. The first phase, gathering, knowing that your shortfalls are shared, can give a feeling of comfort for many, and thus, the Sedalis Collective gathers in paradise to remind you of this fact. The second phase, exposure to yourself. Know that you are an island, and that your world exists only to you. You are the greatest being in the universe. The third phase, abstinence. At the Sedalis Collective, we define abstinence as shirking the physical limitations we put on ourselves in order to refine the mind, done mainly through freedom from sleep.
The Sedalis cult was established after the creator met one of the world's Watchers. But what are the Watchers? This odd painting gives us a clue. It's by the 18th century artist William Blake, and it's called The Ghost of a Flea. People who survive IUNDS attacks in their sleep say they have visions of fleas and incubi. So these watchers are the ones attacking people and draining their blood. The Sedalis cult are remarkably similar to what we've already been shown about IUNDS and voluntary insomnia. The second tenet, exposure, seems a little odd by itself, but it's similar to what was said in the previous video, Abandon All Hope. You are all you need. You are an island. You are the greatest being in your universe. It's designed to cut you off from your hopes and dreams. It's likely that that video was put out by the cult as part of their training or to spread their message. Freedom from sleep is simply voluntary insomnia. It's the same process that we saw with Dane in the hospital. A man visited by the Watchers, spreading insomnia. The first tenet of the cult is just a way to spread the disease by bringing more people in. They put out this video to attract new people to visit their cult and become infected with insomnia, just like the medical staff did with Dane. The Sedalis cult is just more organised. It seems odd though, doesn't it? If the Watchers are draining people's blood in their sleep, then you'd think they would want more people and more victims to sleep, right? Maybe the insomnia disease that comes from the survivors is unintentional. That's not likely. Not only do the Sedalis cult offer blood to the Watchers through regular sacrifice, the voiceover in the ad uses the same language as the voice in the dream from the previous episode, who, in hindsight, is very likely a Watcher.
You may ask, what is the Sedalis Collective?
You may ask, is this a dream? I would ask, would that make a difference?
And of course, people who survive IUNDS and infected insomniacs still have the same symptoms. They're still being attacked, just slowly. The Watchers are spreading insomnia intentionally for some reason.
I felt aimless and weak before the Sedalis Collective, but now I love myself more than you could ever imagine loving anything. All of my nightmares are gone.
I would wake up in the middle of the night and constantly think about my mortality. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Now I don't do anything. I just live. They're not after me anymore.
Once I practice the sacrifice with my blood bowl, I'm doing way better.
The Sedalis Collective. How do we do it? Come find out. Come join us.
Now I don't do anything. I just live. The Sedalis process has removed the hopes and dreams from these people. They don't want to do anything anymore. They're just happy with the way their life is. To refer again to the previous episode, there was one line I pointed out in particular. Your dreams are the reality you choose. The Watchers are removing people's dreams, both metaphorically through the cult and literally through insomnia. But why? What do they gain from crushing the motivation of people?
Are you lonely? Don't go to sleep. I am waiting for you. You don't know what is waiting for you in your nightmares. No, you don't. No, you don't. Come to me. I am waiting for you. I am waiting for you.
A woman we are assured is beautiful and in love with the viewer begs them not to go to sleep because there's horrible monsters waiting for them. She's waiting for them in reality if they don't sleep, but she might be a monster too. It's likely this video is connected to the cult, but not only because of its message, but the beautiful woman looks awfully similar to the one who appeared in the previous video. These Classic style analog horror videos, where it's primarily images on a black screen, are the most mysterious of all the videos in this series, I feel. It's not clear what the context is. Is it a dream? A vision? An interruption on TV? For most of them, it takes a while to understand their place. It would be odd to have messages telling you how bad sleep is while you're actually sleeping, but regardless, the next video does make me suspect that they are indeed dreams, or at least half-awake visions. It's a watcher trying to directly talk to someone. And it's brought Samantha and a new face along too. The watcher seems to be luring the person to sleep by playing music to them, but the other two are warning them away from it. At this point, Samantha hasn't slept for 3 weeks, long past the point of fatality in a normal human. The second half of this video just appears to be creepy imagery, but it's designed as a mini-series of videos along with the next two, after which it'll make a bit more sense. The video ends with the recipient of this message asking, "What happened to me?" Well, we're about to find out.
A beautiful couple. Nothing could be more perfect.
We open with the story about a beautiful couple and their beautiful home. They're even expecting a child. What could be more perfect? They're living their dreams. The man cannot find his house. He cannot find his family. He cannot even close his eyes. Is he damned to a life without sleep?
A life without sleep. Is this his damnation?
A story of the human cost of what the Watchers are doing. Or is it? Before analysing this episode, the next provides vital clues to help us understand it.
My head hurts. All I can think is, my head hurts. I don't want to go to sleep. I've been hearing some news about people like me. I don't know if I want them to be like me or not. It wasn't a dream. scaly, inhuman with a human form. I thought I was part of some harvest. I only felt the fear when I woke up.
The man, Robert Castro, has IUNDS. He's been attacked in the night by fleas and drained of his blood. Importantly, we also have his journal, which confirms he was summoned by a watcher, and he thought he was going to be harvested, but was allowed to survive. Now, he's lost his memory, is unable to sleep, and his fear is getting worse. He's been hearing about people like him, and he didn't dream it. This seems to confirm that episode 8, Visitor, was some kind of manipulated dream or half-asleep vision. Samantha spoke to him in this vision, but she doesn't have IUNDS. She has the insomnia infection. Perhaps cases of voluntary insomnia can communicate through these visions, or perhaps they're forced to by the Watchers. All of the pictures here are by William Blake, the same artist who painted the Ghost of a Flea painting that denotes the Watchers. They are all from a series of paintings he made where he would see visions of dead people from throughout history, amongst other things. The first is titled The Man Who Taught Blake Painting in His Dreams, and it's likely a kind of self-portrait. Here it's used to denote the teacher, likely the Watcher who had been visiting Robert. Next, visionary head of Karina the Theban, an ancient Greek poet of whom little is known, although she was nicknamed the Fly. Greek poets often thought of themselves as inspired by the divine muses, or even the gods directly, not too dissimilar to Robert and his connection with the teacher. Perhaps this Watcher was trying to establish another cult like Sedalis. Visionary head of Harold killed at the Battle of Hastings. Harold was an English king killed during the Battle of Hastings in the year 1066 by William the Conqueror. I'm unsure exactly how this picture relates to the story being told, but perhaps it is a threat of what will happen if one resists the invading Watchers.
You may characterize me as insane, but I know what you are hiding. My concern is that you cannot grasp what you know. You cannot. Take me to see Samantha. I'm not sure how much time we have left.
Somehow, Robert knows about Samantha. She's not his fiancée, as she was already 3 weeks into insomnia by the time Robert and his family were attacked. Samantha is locked up tightly, under the control of the federal government's National Establishment of Wellness. Whatever's happening to her is something very serious. We appear to see her face immediately after this, almost completely desiccated. The final notes. We see a picture called Eternal Labour. This is a modified version of yet another picture by William Blake from his Book of Urizen. The whole thing is quite complex, but in short, the original picture was about the godlike Urizen staring down at the newly created world. In the associated poem, the book is described as a globe of lifeblood. It's not hard to see the connection, but the interesting thing here is the title, Eternal Labour. That's not the original name for this picture, which is technically untitled. Near where it appears, the poem refers to infinite labour. Spread a tent with strong curtains around them. Let cords and stakes bind in the void, that eternals may no more behold them. They began to weave curtains of darkness. They erected large pillars round the void, with golden hooks fastened in the pillars. With infinite labour the eternals are woof wove, and called it science. The poem is a creation story about reality, and this part is about the physical creation of the world, and its separation from more pure ideals and higher beings. They wove a curtain around the world to hide true reality from humanity, and this was an eternal labour. I suspect this idea is key to understanding the motive of the Watchers. They're hiding something from humanity, and the way they're hiding it is by crushing their hopes and dreams.
Hello, practitioners. Have you been experiencing patients presenting to your practices, fearful of going to sleep? While we understand the urge to comfort the individual, it is imperative to advise that despite the risks, they must sleep. Warn them of voluntary insomnia and its consequences. A developing outbreak unto itself, voluntary insomniacs have been shown to be able to go without sleep indefinitely, with no way of going to sleep after a variable amount of time. Without our current information based on apprehended voluntary insomniacs, we have been able to pin down 4 different strains of this voluntary insomnia phenomenon and what effects it may have on an individual. Strain 1. The most mild of all case types. Presents as rapid aging. While there is neurodegeneration, it is mild compared to other strains. We believe that this patient is as radiant as ever. Strain 2. Characterized by a gaunt face and sharpened teeth. High neurodegeneration renders this patient rather docile. Strain 3. The most unrecognizable of physical manifestations. However, this patient is much more of a harm to themselves than anyone else. Strain 4. The most extreme phase of neurodegeneration. These patients have shown the ability to escape from custody. They are known to be aggressive. Please remain calm, we are all counting on you.
The National Establishment of Wellness makes another appearance. They were first mentioned back in Disaster Report 2, which was a similar video to this in that it was an instructional message for medical professionals about voluntary insomnia. While this video does introduce the classic analog horror concept of different infection strains, they're not really very different from each other. other than levels of violence. And as far as I can tell, they don't really matter for the rest of the series. The most important thing shown here is that Samantha has predicted someone named Luna Castro would be next. But next for what? We haven't seen Luna before, but she shares the same last name as Robert, who lost his family. She's almost certainly his missing wife who, if we recall, is pregnant. The interesting thing is, the first case we're introduced to in this series, Dane Lansky, his fiancée was also pregnant. It may be a coincidence, but if not, it's somewhat worrying. There's a quick flash of text saying, "Abandon all hope, there's nothing we can do," which is thematically a hallmark of the Watchers. Following this, we're also shown an attack taking place, which is possibly what Samantha described happening to Luna. Before we start the next video, the description says it's another set long before the current time, 30 years earlier in fact, in 1962.
I do not know what I saw. I do not need to sleep. I know who I truly love. I know now that I am at their mercy. I myself can wash it all away. There is nothing we can do.
We again see the mysterious red eye. It first appeared in episode 9, Happy Couple, right before the footage of their child. Here, it seems to be interrogating and mind-controlling a man inside of a shipping container through a television. Importantly, it's trying to make him not sleep, and convince him that he is at their mercy, almost certainly meaning the Watchers. Then we see Samantha, and the voice says, "Abandon all hope, there is nothing we can do." This was in the previous episode, the information tape about voluntary insomnia, but that tape is 30 years into the future. Samantha doesn't even exist yet. How can they have a picture of her?
It came from the ocean. A strange event on a cargo ship arriving at the port of Los Angeles has resulted in 26 missing sailors among a crew of 30. The happenings leading to the disappearance of these 26 souls are equal parts murky and eerie. According to authorities, the 4 survivors have been non-communicating.
Victim 1. Our 4 survivors say that he, just like many of the other victims, told the same story. He seemed to not be afraid of what was coming for him, knowing that if he slept on his voyage, that he would never see shore again. Though this should be taken as purely anecdotal, he stated that this voyage was meant to end, and not in a way that they expected it. That it was his mission to carry on, even knowing his doom was imminent. Victim 2, more of the same. And Victim 3, as you guessed it, more of the same.
I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I'm telling you what happened.
It's a little late for tears, isn't it, Barbara? Even though you didn't know it was going to happen today, you've still had your whole life to prepare for it. And now it's a little late, isn't it?
You may tell no one of what you saw. That would be a betrayal of your fellow man. Your crew should not be remembered as gangsters, don't you think?
These three, along with the other 23 victims, should still be considered as missing, seeming to be victims of nocturnal death. Agent will be destroying the file. Dates of death, April 21st, 1962.
I am in your dreams. I am waiting for you. Good luck.
A cargo ship arrived with 26 missing sailors and 4 non-communicative survivors, but that's not really true. What really happened is being covered up. The supposedly missing sailors were all victims of nocturnal death. 3 of them survived but are being slowly drained of their blood and mummified. They knew their doom was imminent, but still they carried on their task. They had to return to shore, but why? What did they find in the middle of the sea? Or what found them? We see what appears to be a woman saying, "I am in your dreams. I am waiting for you," before an image of an alien-type figure flashes on screen. It's an inverse of the beautiful woman from the Sedalis cult video we saw much earlier. A cult which was also in a seaside town. Is this what attacked the crew in the middle of the ocean? Is the red eye causing this, or merely covering it up? It is interrogating a normal human after the deaths of his crew, but seemingly before they reach the shore. It's manipulating him into not sleeping, but also into accepting his death and to not speak about what he saw there. Afterwards, there's some kind of government agency involved, with the agents hiding the information from the public, which the Eye seems to be assisting with. How did they get to the ship so quickly? Were they waiting for it on the shore? If so, then why?
Mine is a Ford Explorer Deluxe. If this is your lucky day and number, you've just won up to $100,000 cash on average in a Ford Explorer Deluxe. And now for the Take 5 winning numbers, just run under the observation of KPI. Cloudy, early chill out there in the morning, and you'll notice it at 34, not as cold as it was the morning last, though. 48 degrees, early sun. So
they put me in a chair and they showed me my worst fears.
During a television interruption, we have 2 competing messages. One text and the other voice. The text is directed at whoever is watching, and is trying to convince them to go to sleep and meet their destiny. The voice speaking, however, doesn't seem to be intended for them. It's a little hard to hear, so... an entity is helping an organization develop something called the Sedalis. Let's break it down. What is the entity? The fact it's called an entity means it's probably something supernatural, so it's either a watcher or the Red Eye, both of which have supernatural abilities. What organization is it helping? Probably the government group that sent the agents to hide the cargo ship incident, as they have a keen interest in this phenomena and, frankly, the voice sounds like a government agent. What is the Sedalis? Well, it's not the first time we've heard that name. The cult of insomniacs established by a watcher had the same name in 1984. But if they were referring to a cult, then they wouldn't say the Sedalis. For some hints, let's take a look at what the actual word means. There's two main uses here. Originally, Sedalis was used to refer to members of a group or brotherhood, often but not exclusively religious fraternities. The groups were thought to originate from aristocratic brotherhoods, if there's any other kind, to handle religious duties, and such groups were later banned due to disrupting the powers that be. The second use is the name of a bacteria that infests certain insects, most importantly for us today, a kind of blood-drinking fly called the tsetse. In fact, it's being studied to be used in the biological control of these pests. So we have an infectious insomnia that spreads when the Watchers leave somebody alive, which is hijacked by the government to create a cult called Sedalis, a word which refers to ancient cults and a bacteria used to control blood-drinking insects. I think we're starting to build up a picture here. But the cult isn't likely the current Sedalis, so what is it? Before we move on to the next video, I'd just like to note one thing. The face that appears here is the same one in the attack at the end of episode 12, likely attacking Luna Castro.
Welcome to the Sedalis, a dream simulator for better tomorrows. To set up your dream, we need some vital information. Choose your desired feeling. Joyous. You chose joyous. Next question. Have you ever been in love? You answered no. Isn't that sad? Next question. Do you frequently have nightmares? You answered yes. We will note that. Great job so far. We will now get into image recognition. Answer honestly to the following images and what feelings they evoke. Tired. Tired. Starting dream.
Now we meet the Sedalis. Even the first frame of this video puts a lot of pieces together. The Sedalis is a machine made by the National Establishment of Wellness, the government organisation that captured Samantha. They now also have Luna Castro, who is likely related to Robert Castro, whose family went missing in Happy Couple. Finally, there's a slogan. If we can dream it, it will be so. It's reminiscent of the previous ideas that have been in the series since almost the very start. Your dreams are the reality you choose. We again see the painting from the Book of Urizen by William Blake, a little clearer now. It's definitely modified from the original and appears to be a being with a missing head absorbing a blood orb. It makes Luna feel tired, which is understandable. The final image shown appears to be a hallway with a face, similar to the one caught on camera in what I suspect is the footage of Luna being kidnapped during the episode Voluntary Insomnia. It cuts away before Luna can tell the machine how it makes her feel, but I think we can guess.
I thought I would take you to the beach. You always said how much you love the water. Feel the soothing ocean waves. Hear them rise and fall. Maybe that's you running in the distance. Maybe you'll meet somebody special.
Oh no!
The artificial dream cuts between multiple sequences. The first is a male voice taking Luna to the beach and suggesting she can find love. The second is an old animation of a man serenading a woman in the upper floor. We see her for a split second as she appears to be goat-like. Perhaps she's the beautiful woman from the earlier video. There's also footage of a couple holding hands. It's clear that Luna is dreaming of love and romance. The dream is interrupted by some creature claiming that it's waiting for her. Well, we know by now that there are indeed creatures waiting for us in our dreams.
It appears we've hit a snag. We apologize if you are not getting the dreamlike experience that you desire. Perhaps our data was not refined enough. Please answer a couple more questions for us. We seem to have encountered some errors in the simulation of this dream. Rest assured, we are working on it.
Unsuccessful. Recalibrate and rerun.
The dream is forcibly ended with an error, and Luna can't seem to select any option, but that there was no problem at all. Then it quickly devolves into nonsense, cutting between different footage with little discernible meaning. The road from the earlier picture, the red eye and a pregnancy flashing on screen, children's drawings of a house. A warning of the apocalypse flashes on screen, followed by a date, March 14th. It's very confusing. Then it's made clear that this section was an interruption by a third party. This demand that Luna accepts her fate is similar to the previous episode's interruption. Finally, we hear a voice saying that it was unsuccessful and to rerun the program. The same voice we heard discussing the Sedalis earlier. The Sedalis machine is a dream simulator, and Luna Castro is strapped inside. An outside entity is interfering with the dreams, and it seems like the people running the machine have no idea. We find out something sad here. She claims to have never been in love, despite being married to Robert and being pregnant. They truly had the perfect life together. You might even say they were living their dreams.
It's confirmed a tornado also touched down in Pecan Grove in Fort Bend County. Well, let's go back to the map and show you why this...
Authorities have issued an emergency alert for... Please shelter in place, lock your doors, and most importantly, remain calm. A breach has occurred in... Voluntary insomniacs and unexplained nocturnal death syndrome are now at large in your local community. Non-domicile shelters such as hospitals will not be available.
Stay in your homes.
It wasn't worth it. Please remember that these patients are dangerous, claiming the lives of 32 in the past 24 hours. We must impart to you, you could be next. Authorities to advise to sleep normally, even though you may feel uneasy given the risk of immediate, unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. If you hear a knock or banging on your door, do not answer. Please remember, you could be next. Act normally. Stay alert.
It's about saving money. It's about spending time, just dropping by, and creating bonds.
We can see the same red text that has appeared multiple times. It's a telltale sign of the Watchers. A voice says, "I think my brother is one of them." There's only two characters we know so far with the same last name, Luna and Robert Castro. A censored being in a room that whispers, "I knew it wasn't worth it." A face whispering something. It sounds like betrayed or it's you, but it's hard to hear. All the while, an emergency newscast warns of escaped voluntary insomniacs wreaking havoc and murdering people. So you should just lock your doors and get some sleep. Samantha and another insomniac have escaped their containment in the National Establishment of Wellness and are now murdering people in the streets. The description says this video was from 1998. It's been 5 years since Samantha was captured. Has she been awake this entire time? The other face appears in the video where Dane degenerates, but he wasn't an insomniac. He was an IUNDS survivor, and there's a good chance he's dead anyway, so it's unclear who exactly this is. My next thought was that perhaps Luna and Robert Castro were siblings, and that this was her voice, but likewise he was an IUNDS survivor too, so I suspect this refers to a currently unknown character. Insomniacs do display a great propensity for violence, as stated much earlier, but how could they get out of a secure medical facility? Especially one operated by the new. It's quite odd. This is currently the latest episode, as of the writing of this video. I'll go through what I suspect is the timeline. I'll clearly say when something is an explicit date given by a video or description, and when I'm inferring something, but you'll likely agree with why I place certain things, as it seems like the timeline isn't intended to be particularly confusing outside of one or two circumstances. There's a number of explicit dates throughout the videos and descriptions, and a number we can infer based on events. In fact, there's only 3 videos that we can't place, and for 2 of those, the placement in the timeline doesn't matter much at all. Those 2 videos are Abandon All Hope and Don't Go to Sleep, which seem to be representative of dream manipulations or cult propaganda, and not directly related to any specific events. The very first event in the timeline, 1962, April 21st. The crew of the cargo ship is declared dead. The actual incident occurred before this, but this date is given by the agents covering up the case. 1984, 22 years later, the Sedalis cult is founded after a visit from the Watcher. 3 years later, in 1987, the cult is still going strong, and we see one of their recruitment videos. This next set of videos do not have explicit dates attached, but due to characters and events within them, we can assume they are in the year 1993. Dane Lansky is attacked in his sleep by a Watcher, but survives. He's one of the very few cases of surviving IUNDS. During Dane's treatment, voluntary insomnia spreads to the staff. The Brookside Health Institute incident occurs, and Dane is apparently killed. Immediately after this, we see what appears to be a Watcher talking to Dane in his post-mortem dreams. Samantha catches voluntary insomnia from somewhere and is taken to the Brookside Health Institute. In an unnamed person's dreams, a Watcher, Samantha, and a handsome man talk to them. Samantha says she's been awake for 3 weeks at this point. In 1993, August 8th, Robert Castro sends an email to Roger Detweiler, the chair of the National Establishment of Wellness, asking to see Samantha. It's clear he's been visited in his dreams by her and the Watchers by this point. On August 14th, Robert wakes up and cannot find his family or his house, and fully descends into madness. September 15th, the National Establishment of Wellness releases another information tape about voluntary insomnia, and Samantha says that Luna Castro is next. In 1997, on March 24th, a local broadcast is interrupted by a Watcher, and the Sedalis dream machine is hinted at. Who this message is directed to is unclear. In 1998, Samantha and another insomniac escape and wreak havoc, murdering multiple people. 2002. Many tapes containing the footage we've been watching were recovered, although the owner of said tapes cannot be found. Now, keen listeners may have realised that one event was missing from this list: Luna Castro's dream simulations. It even has a date in it, March 14th, but no year. It's a complete mystery what this date is, since it doesn't align with any other event that we know of. The question is then, when does this video fit into the timeline? To understand that, we have to know what the Sedalis machine is, and to understand that, we need to look at the different groups woven throughout the story of Nocturnal Chronicles. The 3 main factions are the Watchers, the National Establishment of Wellness, and finally, the Red Eye. The Watchers, or Fleas, attack people in their sleep and drain their blood. This is called Immediate Unexplained Nocturnal Death Syndrome, or IUNDS. Sometimes when Watchers visit someone, they allow them to survive. In this case, the survivor still invariably dies from IUNDS, but over a prolonged period. People who interact with such a survivor can become infected with insomnia and no longer sleep. It's called voluntary insomnia by government groups, despite being anything but voluntary. The government operatives have, over the course of the series, covered up the cargo ship incident, established the Sedalis cult, or at least hijacked it, and built the Sedalis Dream Machine, and the National Establishment of Wellness, or NEW, are controlling the national response to IUNDS and voluntary insomnia. The Red Eye is the most mysterious of all the major players. It can interrupt and control broadcasts and artificial dreams. It can even brainwash people. In the broadcast it interrupts, it is trying to tell the person it's communicating with to sleep and accept their destiny. To figure out their goals, what did each of these three do over the course of the series? The first creature we see that is likely a watcher is aboard the cargo ship. What appears to be a woman says, "I am in your dreams. I am waiting for you." And the men aboard were drained of their blood, or were the survivors of an attack, doomed to die slowly. The next time we hear of the Watchers, they've been committing attacks on people, appearing as swarms of fleas during their dreams. We actually see a Watcher talk to somebody, probably Robert Castro, trying to lull him to sleep while he's warned not to by Samantha and another man. The government likewise first appeared during the cargo ship incident, hiding it from the public. Later, the Sedalis cult appears in a seaside town which offers a unique method to placate the Watchers: blood sacrifice. This hasn't appeared anywhere else. The cult isn't specifically linked to the government, but the name Sedalis is used later again in the New's Dream Machine, implying a connection. They also hold, or perhaps kidnap, several voluntary insomnia and IUNDS patients to treat and/or experiment on them. Despite their interest in artificial dreams and insomnia, they also instruct medical professionals to try and help their own patients sleep and avoid the insomnia. Finally, the Red Eye. Its first appearance in the timeline, like the other groups, is on the cargo ship. It appears on the television and brainwashes one of the survivors into not sleeping, not speaking about what they saw aboard the ship, to believing he is at the mercy of the Watchers and to take the blame for his dead men. After that, it appears when Robert Castro loses his family, and again when Luna Castro is in the Sedalis Dream Machine. I originally thought it may have been working with the government, but it seems to be behind all of the transmission interruptions with the text on screen, since that text is usually associated with the colour red, and the Red Eye has been shown explicitly controlling transmissions. All of the transmissions are about sleeping and accepting your fate. There's something waiting for the person the messages are directed towards, which is a common feeling in all victims of the Watchers. I suspect the Red Eye is related to them, and may even be one, although it does act a little differently. The next question is, what is actually happening here? Well, the story isn't over yet, and I think we're still missing some big pieces, but based on what we do know, here's what I think is currently happening. First, the Watchers. Despite being the villains at the start, they seem to be on the back foot by the current videos. They were almost all-powerful early on, feeding on people in their sleep and spreading their insomniac cults. Now that the New have their artificial dream machine, the Watchers seem almost scared of it. They're interfering with it, but whoever is running the machine is very confident in its progress. The Sedalis group was obviously intended to be a method to control the Watchers, but it's not clear exactly how. Was it just formalising the blood sacrifice to keep them satiated? Or does the connection of the Sedalis name go deeper? And did the government create the insomnia infection themselves? Either way, it seems that it wasn't enough for them, and they set about creating the artificial dream machine. The mysterious entity is probably the Red Eye. It helped both the Watchers and the New in the cargo ship incident by brainwashing the survivors into not discussing it. But it seems to be working against the New and the Dream Machine now. Since it is obviously well versed in technology and dreams, and has worked with the government before, it seems like this being is the entity mentioned that helped with the development of the Sedalis. Despite this, it's shown interfering with the machine, so its motivations aren't exactly clear. The last question is, why? Why are they all doing this? Your dreams are the reality you choose. There is nothing we cannot control. If we can dream it, it will be so. Dreams can shape reality. Whether that is literal or not, we haven't seen, but the Watchers and the New think it is. The Watchers are trying to make people stop sleeping, and the New think it's worth making an artificial dream machine which can interact with the minds of multiple people at once. The Watchers were intentionally spreading insomnia, and by doing so, physically stopping people from dreaming. If dreams shape reality, that means they wanted to stop people from using that power. They were aware of the risk of losing their food source, though, and the Sedalis cult then began performing blood sacrifices to keep them satiated despite not sleeping. The cult was designed to bring in more people to infect with insomnia and normalize the idea of having no dreams, both literal dreams while sleeping or metaphorical dreams, goals and hopes for the future. In Dream Simulator, Luna Castro says she's never been in love before, and the dreams we see are of romance. The dreams are nice until there's an interference and they turn to nightmares. And that's exactly what we see in the happy couple video too. The pair are a happy couple until a Watcher appears, and Robert can no longer find his house or his family anymore. The red eye is even present in both interferences. People suffering from the insomnia infection can share dreams, as we see in Visitor, where Samantha visits Robert. Robert and Luna shared a happy dream while she was in the Sedalis machine, but that was ripped away by the Watchers and Red Eye interfering. But how much of that was a dream? Robert definitely thought it was real. In the past, it seems like the government tried to placate or even do deals with the Watchers. As explained earlier, the name Sedalis is the Latin word for companion and refers to both a Latin name for a brotherhood that was usually religious and a bacteria used to control a blood-sucking fly. I think the cult was the first attempt to control or placate the Watchers after they escaped the cargo ship. Then it either failed or they came up with a better plan and decided to build the dream machine to completely usurp them. The Watchers, for their part, seem to be completely on the back foot, almost unintelligent predators. At best, they're trying to convince people to sleep while they're in the dream machine, but they can't seem to actually force them to do so. It remains to be seen if they still have something up their sleeve, but for now they seem more like a natural force rather than real players. Returning to the cargo ship incident, I don't think they just happened to find a Watcher in the middle of the ocean. Those ships transport goods, so it's likely that the Watcher was inside one of the containers and it got out somehow. The question is though, where did it come from before that? Did they just have one stored in a shipping container somewhere? Well, maybe. It said earlier that there have been outbreaks of IUNDS around the world in the past. The Watcher we see here looks like an alien, so perhaps it's a kind of alien the government had caught in the past and were moving it from one facility to another. That would also explain why the government had agents ready to hide the cargo ship disaster so quickly. They were waiting at the docks for the shipment, and frankly they didn't seem too concerned. Perhaps they were even expecting this. We even see Red Eye mind controlling someone inside of one of the containers, so it's clear that something odd was happening on board. But Red Eye, well, what it wants is a complete mystery. It's mostly helping the Watchers, but seems to have helped the New in the past as well, despite being against them now. I suspect it's a rogue Watcher, but right now I don't think we have all the pieces. As for where the story is going, well, I think it ties back into this painting we saw earlier, the one labelled Eternal Labour. I think that naturally, the dreams of humanity break through the veil and can shape reality, but this is a power that most people do not know they have or understand how to use. The Watchers are beings from outside of human reality, perhaps beings that live in the dream world, and are trying to prevent humanity from taking advantage of this power. The government, after studying the Watchers and perhaps with help from the Red Eye, devised several plans to try and use this power. The first was the Sedalis cult, but when that failed, they started developing the Dream Machine. The Red Eye helped them build the machine, but now is interfering with it to use that power for its own mysterious ends. I suspect that the Red Eye has been trying to use humanity's powers for some time, and part of its plan is Samantha. The Red Eye implanted the idea of her inside the cargo ship's crew during his interrogations to manipulate their ability to shape reality and ensure her birth. Her being constructed by the Red Eye is suggested through the clips from Metropolis, where a man builds an android figure and even yells her name. Her purpose, I think, is to lead a new cult for the Watchers, one that Robert Castro was to help with. The Watcher teaching him had him and Samantha meet specifically, and later he tried to meet her in real life. Robert seemed to die before this could happen, however. But, as of the latest video, Samantha has escaped containment with another insomniac, so we may see the birth of this new cult soon. This is my theory about the truth behind what's happening, but the story is still ongoing. And other than the Red Eye's plans, there's still some questions I don't think we have the answers to yet.
You may ask, is this a dream? I would ask, would that make a difference? Your dreams are the reality you choose.
The cargo ship is the first incident that starts the story in motion, and despite that, it's still murky. What's the truth about the Watcher in the ocean? Why did Red Eye help cover up that incident, and how did it have a picture of Samantha years before she was born? Was Red Eye the entity who helped the government build the Dream Machine, and if so, why is it interfering now? Is the government correct about dreams shaping reality? It's hinted at a lot, but there's been no hard proof of that in the series. The one big dream event we saw was the happy couple, but that was erased when they woke up. Robert Castro also highlights something I'm unsure about. When he was visited by the Watchers and survived the initial attack, they communicated with him for some time, but elsewhere it seems like they want people to sleep. Is their spreading of insomnia intentional, accidental, or something else? I suspect they are spreading insomnia to prevent people from utilizing their dream powers, but is that the case? It's hard to put together a puzzle without all of the pieces, but I hope by now you can understand why I couldn't help myself. What appears to be a regular analog horror spiraled into something much deeper and much more interesting. Ghost fleas, incubi, insomnia that spreads like a disease, artificial dream machines. It's a pretty wild ride. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about the series because, frankly, there's still a lot of questions. Do you think my theories about the series are correct? Where do you think it'll go next? If you enjoyed this video, then please go watch the original series, which is still being regularly updated. Every comment, like, and subscription goes a long way to support channels making fantastic horror content like this, and we need to support it when we can. As I was working on this video, several more episodes dropped. I'll refrain from adding them on here because, well, I already did that twice and needed to stop because this video had already taken so long, but rest assured that once the series is finished, I'll make another video about it. When I first watched Nocturnal Chronicles, and I'll be completely honest here, I thought it was another generic analog horror project, but as I watched further, something about it hooked me. I couldn't quite tell what that was until I decided to sit down and really dig into the series. The writing is, well, it's fantastic. It's honestly among the best of the series I've watched. The downside is, if I may be a little critical here, is the visuals. While they do get much better as the series progresses, the visuals in Nocturnal Chronicles are still very safe. The great series carved out their own space in everything they did. Audio, writing, visuals, everything. Despite that though, this is still hands down one of my favourite series, and I'm only offering this criticism because I think that it can become truly great. Thank you all very much for watching. This video was generously supported by the patrons whose names you can see on screen now. If you'd like to support the channel, the Patreon is the best way to do that. You can get early previews of videos, scripts, and even see full videos a week before the general public. And of course, you can get your name in the credits. My name's More They Do, and I hope you sleep well tonight.